So who's with me in using food waste for a natural dye project? Today's video is for you. Hi, this is Margaret Byrd and welcome to Color Quest. When I first started in natural dyeing, I looked to my kitchen for organic color in the form of food. And that includes things like avocado and onions and even things I would find in my spice rack. And it is a great place to start if you're just diving into natural color, because we all have some of these foods in our kitchens. So today on Color Quest, I'd like to look at 3 different food wastes and how we can create some really great dye colors and put them together in a macrame project. So let's head to our compost pile, collect some of those skins, and start making some beautiful colors in our dye pot. I am always so surprised where inspiration is going to come for videos here at Color Quest, and today's video is no exception. In the past few weeks, I've had a few things happen that all culminated into making this video, one of which started with a company by the name of Hippie Crafters reaching out and asking me if there was a product that I might like to try out. I looked through the portfolio and they had some cotton macrame cord that could be a perfect fit for people here at Color Quest who are using the dyed fibers for projects like macrame. Secondly is, as you know, I went to the IFFS Fungi Symposium and got this beautiful ring for all of the samples that we made. And this ring gave me some ideas about using it with a macrame cord to make something. And finally, since macrame is something that I think is quite accessible to a larger population, including kids, I wanted to work with some natural dyes that are super easy to access, and that is food waste. So things like onion skins, avocado skins and stones, and even this season here, pomegranate skins are all fantastic dye sources that are accessible and easy to start if this journey of natural color is new to you. So let's jump into the kitchen studio, start brewing up some dye, and see what this Hippie Crafter macrame cord will do inside of the dye pot. Now, before we start, there are a few things to chat about when it comes to the different food sources that I have chosen for this video. All of these skins and stones from the avocado are high in tannin. This is one reason why they are a fantastic dye source. Tannin has the ability to naturally bind with fiber. So if you choose something that has a higher tannin content, you have a better chance of it sticking around a little bit longer on your fiber. And if you've been watching this channel for a while or spending a lot of time inside of your dye studio, you know that the first thing we do when we work with fiber, besides wash it, is that we treat it with a mordant. Now, mordants can get quite complex, and in trying to keep this a simple and accessible video, especially for newcomers, we're going to look at soy milk as another food source that can be used to help with the binding process. So let's take a look at each one of those before we start brewing. Here are today's materials. We're going to be working with avocado the skins and the stones inside, pomegranate skins, both red and yellow onion skins, which I collect all the time when I cook, soybeans, which if you want to be a purist and make your own soy milk, you can start from dried beans, or you can also use a store-bought brand. Just make sure it's unsweetened. You only want soy milk. And we'll be using the ring that I have here as part of the project. And finally, the macrame cord. Now, as I mentioned, the good people of Hippie Crafters reached out, and this product is 100% cotton. So as you know, with natural dyeing, we want to be using 100% natural fibers, and this one is 100% cotton. So it's a cellulose fiber, which means it's going to be a little harder to dye as opposed to protein fibers like wool and silk, but that's why we're going to be doing a little bit of soy milk pre-treatment here prior, which will help put a nice protein bond on the outside of this fiber and help those natural colors to be invited to stick around, as well as the skins of these particular fruits and vegetables, because they have that higher tannin content. And that also helps with the staying power of natural color onto things like cotton. Now, I have had videos on ColorQuest about all three of these, or all four of these actually. There are videos where you can watch how to brew onion skin, both in red and yellow, as well as avocado skins and stones, and even pomegranate rinds or skins. Now, I want to mention one thing about pomegranates is that the rind of this, or the skin, is also used in many cultures as the mordant itself. Because of its high tannin content, it can be the mordant of choice to pre-treat your fiber before you then dye it with other things. So remember that if you have access to pomegranate, you can always keep these skins after you eat those juicy seeds and freeze them, save them from later, collect them like I did with the onion skins, and you can have another tannin-rich mordant option for your dye projects in the future. So making dye from food scraps is pretty easy stuff. After you enjoy the fruits or vegetables, save the skins, and for avocado, the stones as well, and thoroughly wash them to remove any of the residual fruit or vegetable parts. Once you've done that, it's nothing more than putting them into a dye pot and cooking them on the stove, nice simmer in a pot that's been earmarked exclusively for natural dyeing. You do not want to ever use your cooking utensils or pots for anything that you're going to use for dyeing. Even though these are foods, it's best to get in the practice of not cross-contaminating your dye supplies and your food cooking utensils. The general rule of thumb for dyes is approximately 1 hour of simmer time. You can then remove the dye matter itself, or you can put your fiber right inside the pot with the dye matter. In today's video, I'm going to do the latter. I am going to be putting the macrame cord into each one of the dye pots with the dye matter. Just perhaps it will add a little extra oomph, and also it's a time saver. I'll get that dye started. Once I start to see some color emerge, then I'll plop the macrame cord into it. Now, it's always so exciting to start brewing up the color itself, but before we do that, we have to prep our fiber. The first thing we are going to do is wash our fiber. Since we have this cord, I'm going to be doing that on the stovetop, simply by putting it in a pot, covering it with water, adding just a drop of pH neutral dish soap, and then letting that simmer for about 30 minutes to an hour on the stovetop. Once that's done, I'm going to rinse it. The fiber itself will be wet. That's a good thing. We always want to be working with wet fiber. If you allow your fiber to dry after you wash it, you're going to want to put it back into water and let it soak. This allows the oxygen to get removed from the fiber itself and just opens things up so it can better receive whatever you're putting it into. Next step is going to be the binder. And in this instance, we're going to be using soy milk. I'm calling it a binder because it's not a true mordant, but it's acting in the same way. It's going to provide a protein bond with the fiber so that the natural colors can adhere better. If you decide you want to start from scratch and be a purist, you can find and follow a recipe for making soy milk. It's really nothing more than soaking the beans overnight, putting them into a blender with some warm water, letting that get really good and blended, and then repeating the process by straining out the mash itself and putting that mash back in the blender. You can continue to do this until you have enough volume. I would say maximum 3 times. And you can then dispose of the soy milk mash, and the leftover liquid is what you will use as your binder. I have a video here on Color Quest about soy milk as a binder / mordant. You can watch that. That process in that particular video is long. It involves soaking the fiber in soy milk overnight and then letting it dry and soaking it again and letting it dry, and then you have to let it sit for about a week. This is a really in-depth process to make sure that your fiber is super saturated with soy milk and beautifully prepared for your best binding experience. However, since we are working with macrame cord and I am not intending on washing the cord, it's actually going to be used in a decorative way. I'm only going to be doing a shortened version of that. So we'll be taking the soy milk and simply soaking our wet macrame cord for about an hour and then letting it dry and cure just overnight or for at least a couple of hours, and then we'll call it ready to go into the dye pot. Now, since I'm going to be using the macrame cord in a particular project, I'm actually going to measure and cut the macrame cord to the size that I want for the project. So let's do that first, then we'll get that soaking in some water so that it can then go into our pot to wash, and then our soy milk. So many steps, but trust me, it's a lot of fun and you'll get used to it. It's not unlike cooking. And there's just some wait time in between. So like me, you can be multitasking while you're going through this process. So since I'm new to the world of macrame, I have picked a very simple project that I just like the look of it. A super simple and clean and hopefully very easy knot. I think maybe the easiest knot for macrame. And using the hoop just to create a really pretty boho inspired wall hanging. Now for this piece, I have decided that I want 24-inch lengths. So for this project, I'm going to be cutting 36 of these 24-inch pieces. And the reason for that is because I am going to put 6 in each one of the 5 dies, and then I'm going to leave 6 pieces the natural color. I'd like to have the option of using that in my wall hanging project. So let's cut this up now. It'll be easier to work with if I already have those 24-inch lengths ready as I start the cleaning process and the binding process, and then it can just go into each one of those individual pots as is. So for this project, the kind people at Hippie Crafters gave me the 1/8 inch by 325 feet 100% cotton macrame cord. This is what they have that was 100% natural that I could use in my dye practice. So 325 25 feet is a lot of cord. So based on what I'm doing, I'm only going to be doing 72 feet. So I'm going to have quite a bit of this left over. Now 1/8 of an inch is pretty thin, but this is what I was gifted. So this is what we're going to use. Let's get cutting our pieces. Haha, note to self, get some sharp scissors. I have some, I'm just too lazy to pick them up. So I'm gonna be using these to finish the cutting. Oh, use tools at work. I should take my own advice, right? Wow, I absolutely love the way the colors turned out on this cotton macrame cord. They look beautiful, all of them. One thing I love about working with natural color is that they are naturally harmonized. So any colors that you put together are going to look great together. Now, Hippie Crafter has all kinds of beautiful synthetic colors in their macrame cord. So if you're looking for something a bit more vivid and ready right out of the package, that's a great place to go. But I love the fact that they have a natural version that we then can play with natural colors. And if today's video shows you anything, the results are absolutely stunning. All right, you ready to make a project with these gorgeous colors? Let's get to it. So I have already determined the order in which I'm going to be using these colors and how many of each I'm going to be using. The ring that I have is just 6 inches across, and although it really fit all of those mushroom dyed fibers beautifully, I won't need all 36 that I made. So my option is I could get a bigger ring, obviously. I know they come in all different sizes, and the 36 pieces would probably fit well on a 12-inch ring. So all that means is I have a bunch of extra left over to make another project. And since macrame is new to me, I have chosen a very simple project. I'm going to be using what's known as a lark's head knot. And that is the most common knot used to attach your cord to either a ring or a rod or anything that you're going to be hanging it from. So first, quickly, we have the natural, and then I'm going to be using 4 pieces, which is the avocado skin, 4 pieces, which is the avocado stone. And I added that baking soda because that changes the pH and makes it a little pinker in my opinion. Then I will be adding 4 pieces of the red onion skin, 2 pieces of the yellow onion skin, which was the most vibrant of all of them, and finally 2 pieces of the pomegranate skin. So I'm going to start with the white because I'm going to be starting in the middle and working my way out on both sides. The first thing I'm going to do is take one of my cords and fold it in half. And I'll be doing that for each one of these. That allows me to create this loop here, which is what I'm going to use to tie the knot. I simply put it over the top of my ring and then pull my 2 strings through like so and pull it. And there you have the lark's head knot. And I'm going to keep doing that. So there it is, all knotted and beautifully tied. Look at all those amazing colors again. They look so beautiful together. And now I have this beautiful macrame hanging piece. Of course, you could cut the edges. I really liked actually how they frayed like this. I think that adds a really pretty tassel effect to the end. And obviously you could do so much more. But I would say all in all, this cord worked really well, and I will definitely be using it again. If not for macrame, for my own art practice. I'd like to thank Hippie Crafters for gifting me this beautiful macrame cord, and I have to say it did a really great job. As a cotton fiber working with natural dyes, it can be tricky. So I can give it a thumbs up and say that if you're interested in naturally dyeing your macrame cord, Hippie Crafter's 100% natural cotton works very well. But remember, prep is everything. If you're interested in purchasing from Hippie Crafters, there is a link below in the description, both to their Amazon link as well as their website, so you can go check out all the other products that they have. And if you decide to buy some macrame cord through this link, I will make a tiny percentage of that sale. So thank you for supporting Hippie Crafters and my channel here at Color Quest. So next week, let's continue our journey with food scraps, and I'd like to specifically look at red and yellow onion skins. They actually can make beautiful echo prints. So join me here on Color Quest as we look to play around some more with our food in the way of scraps and natural color. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next Friday. Yourself. So grab a seat. Let's head into the kitchen. Let's head into the kitchen. Pick up some.